Welcome to K-Drama School. I'm your host, Grace Jung, and class is now in session. So today's Korean drama is a little show called Goblin, also known as Guardian, the Great and Lonely God, or in Korean, just Dokkaebi. I have this memory of another Korean drama from the early 1990s called Dokkaebi, and I know some of you millennial Koreans and Korean Americans know what I'm talking about. It had a very intense drumbeat opening theme song, but I can't seem to find it anywhere because the 2016 Dokkaebi drama is dominating all the search engine results. So if you know what I'm talking about, please message me because I'm dying to figure out like what show this was. Okay, so let me give you some industry context. Goblin was written by a writer named Kim Eun-sook, and so many of her shows are huge hits. And some of the favorite shows that she's written include Lovers in Paris, Secret Garden, A Gentleman's Dignity, The Heirs, Descendants of the Sun, Mr. Sunshine, The King Eternal Monarch. The King Eternal Monarch is the most recent one that is currently on Netflix. It dropped in 2020, and yeah, I personally I don't like it. I don't think it's a good show. But out of the shows that I just listed, my favorites are Lovers in Paris or 파리의 연인 and A Gentleman's Dignity or like 신사의 품격. It's so good. Both of those shows are so good. Dramas like Secret Garden, The Heirs, Descendants, Mr. Sunshine, and The King Eternal Monarch became enormous Hallyu successes, meaning successes overseas, but they're a little too over the top sweet and cheesy for my taste. So, I mean, you can take it or leave it. I don't know. It's up to you to decide. But I genuinely did not like The King Eternal Monarch, which is like I said, it's currently on Netflix. It had an enormous budget, huge expectations, just like Mr. Sunshine did. But yeah, despite the star power, neither shows were very good. And in Korea, the reception for both of those shows was like very modest to low. I'd say ever since Goblin, Kim Eun-sook's writing has been struggling a little bit. Um, she's really been struggling to put out a Korean drama that really sticks, as well as some of the other shows have. And if you want to read more about my take on Mr. Sunshine, you can look it up on my blog post on hj.com. I wrote about Mr. Sunshine and Netflix and the embedded marketing that that show has, which is like somewhat ridiculous. Like we're in the late 19th century and they're like at coffee houses, like Talcum Coffee House, like they're eating at like Paris Baguette. Like, I mean, come on, like it was a bit much. Writers like Kim Eun-sook and her mega hit shows are putting Korean TV screenwriters on the map, I would say, and they're gaining auteur like status. You know, like auteur meaning like oftentimes you'll attribute like auteurship to big name filmmakers like Hitchcock or like Godard or Terrence Malick, but like I would give Korean TV screenwriters auteur like status and respect now because Korea is giving them that status and respect, and because of their hit TV successes, overseas platforms like Netflix are also recognizing them. So I feel like the concept of auteurship requires rethinking, and cinema and media studies can really start melding auteur studies with the Korean TV screenwriter as a quote unquote showrunner with Hallyu or global status and influence, and kind of take note how streaming and production giants like Netflix are working to accommodate and take in talent like theirs. So Goblin has some big names to be reckoned with, like Gong-yu, Kim Go-eun, Lee Dong-wook, Yoo In-na. Huge names. Kim Go-eun had already made a big splash in 2020 with her film Amuse. She also got some recognition for her performance in another Korean drama that she was in earlier that year prior to Goblin called Cheese in the Trap, which is based on a popular webtoon series. And Goblin is about a young girl named Eun-tak. She's an orphan who can see ghosts, right? She was born destined to marry a 939-year-old goblin named Kim Shin, played by Kong Yu. And Eun-tak's ability to see ghosts was interestingly framed as a disability in episode one, especially the way like her mother looks at her. Um, I found this reimagining of disability as a superpower kind of progressive and creative on this show. And then Eun-tak eventually moves in with Kim Shin, the goblin, and they fall in love, even though she's a high schooler and the goblin is almost 1,000 years old, but it's fine. Plenty of netizens expressed their disturbance over this age gap. They said a lot of negative things about it, so I won't mention it any further. Okay. Eun-tak pulls the sword that's stuck inside Kim Shin's chest, which makes him disappear. Like his punishment for murdering so many people as a general in wars was that he can't die. Like he's like gonna live forever until his bride comes and pulls the sword out of his chest. And he waited almost 1,000 years for this to happen. And when she does this, he disappears. He turns into dust and he disappears, right? And then all memory of him is like lost among the people who are left behind on Earth. But he returns to her 10 years later, and the old Korean drama trope that I love was reused here. So Eun-tak can't remember who he is, right? Like she has like amnesia or something. But of course her memory returns, right? Because, love is fate. And yeah, when they're in Canada, she's like suddenly, I don't know, like her memory returns and like she starts running around looking for a candle to blow out, and then when she blows out a candle he magically appears, and then the first thing he does is like, of course, like smooch her, like I don't know why so many Korean dramas have that scene where a man grabs a woman and like yanks her towards him and smooches her real hard. Like if that happened in reality, all you would end up with are like broken lips, all right, or broken teeth. It's very rare that yanking somebody and then smashing your face into them results in a romantic kiss. It usually just results in injury. So just note for all of you people who have not kissed anybody yet, like don't try and kiss somebody this way. It's very dangerous and it leads to more humiliation. All right. This is just something that Korean dramas aesthetic, like used for aesthetic purposes. It's not at all practical. Anyway, I found the way that they kept going to Canada really ridiculous and funny. Like even like the goblin's gravestones are in Canada. Like why are they in Canada? It's so weird. But anyway, like from an industry level, they were shoehorning in Canada because, Canada Airlines is a product placement on the show. And also the production most likely benefited from Canada's tax cuts as a runaway production. Eun-tak and Kim Shin get married, but literally the next day after their wedding, Eun-tak gets killed in a freak car accident. The way that she dies is pretty tragic too. Like a truck randomly goes rogue and it's about to hit a children's school van as like kids are starting to board. But Eun-tak sees this and she drives her car in between them, sacrificing her life instead of the children's. And then the goblin is left alone for several decades, like mourning her death, mourning the death of his sister, mourning the disappearance of his friend. And he's back in Quebec, Canada, sitting by his gravestones during sunset when a high school girl approaches him and asks him, "Hey, mister, do you know who I am?" And it's, suggested that it's Eun-tak reincarnated as his bride once more. And then the camera pulls back in this extreme wide shot with the drone and it ends on this very beautiful picturesque image of the two. I would say the soundtrack on Goblin is pretty awesome. There are songs by people like Ailey and Hayes and Han Suji and Chanyeol, Punch, Crush, Mamamoo, Soyu, Sam Kim, Eddie Kim, and a bunch of others. And I still listen to the show's OST every now and then. So check it out if you haven't. I think the music goes a long way in any Korean drama. It's like a third of the battle for a successful show, in my opinion. If the music sucks, the show is gonna suck. I think the motif of children in this drama is very significant. So in 2014, there was this capsizing of a ship called the Huevos ferry, or just Haewol ferry. On board were 400 people, including over 300 high school students. They all died. Um, the ship's capsizing led to enormous protests and demonstrations on the streets. It also led to the eventual impeachment of President Park Geun-hye. And ever since that incident, whenever there are ghost stories in Korean dramas from 2014 onwards, it has this other significance. Okay, so like after this Hayward Ferry tragedy, you had a lot of shows about ghosts or protagonists with supernatural powers who are battling injustice. And Black, which is on Netflix, it's a K drama on Netflix starring Song Seung-eun and Koara, is one of these shows. There have been a few copycat dramas ever since the success of Goblin, like The Bride of Habaek, which is based on a comic series, Black Knight, starring Shin Se-kyung, and Hotel del Luna, starring IU. I genuinely didn't find any of these to be as good as Goblin, but the point I'm making is that these shows with ghosts and supernatural abilities are a way that Korea is processing its national trauma of losing hundreds of children in a ferry sinking due to the negligence of authorities. So it's got this very subtle political undertone or political critique that's there, but you just kind of have to seek it out. Like when I talk about the negligence of authorities, I'm talking about, like the captain of this Hayward ferry who lived. Okay, like he was trying to run away from the scene of the crime in his underwear after hundreds of people have died, and he was trying to avoid taking responsibility for overloading the ship's cargo, not following protocol, and was trying to get away, and now he's serving a life sentence in prison. But of course, this doesn't bring back all the hundreds of children who've died, and it's obviously broken many families' hearts, right? And it's led to a national trauma, like I said. um, so that's another way of reading Goblin. In fact, you could read any of the ghost story narratives in Korean dramas from 2014 onwards that involve ghosts, injustice, and children as some form of reckoning with this political trauma that Korea underwent. In any case, that's my reading of The Goblin, and I now want to introduce my next comedic guest. Her name is Lizzy Cooperman. She's a force to be reckoned with when she's on stage, like real powerful. You've seen her on HBO's Crashing and Lights Out with David Spade. She's written for shows like Not Safe with Nikki Glazer. She's written for The Eric Andre Show. She headlined at numerous comedy festivals, including Just for Laughs in Montreal. You can listen to her comedy album Organism, which is on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, and Google Play. She's hilarious and she is an artist through and through. Let's talk to Lizzy Cooperman. I do guided meditations on the Calm app because American Express was like, you get a year free membership of Calm. And I was like, all right, let's do it. So, yeah, what about you?
I have not meditated yet. I woke up so late today, but I did my morning pages, my 3 pages of stream of consciousness
Yeah,
writing.
nice.
And I don't know. I'm just kind of like drifting right now. I'm in New Mexico
I
and
know.
I'm trying to
Wow.
figure out what to do next.
What brought you to New Mexico?
I came here years ago and I was like, God, if I ever am in a place where I could retire, this is where I'd want to go.
Wow.
Have you been here?
I've never been to New Mexico.
People are like, wait, so you're 75 years old? No, so then when all this, I was just kind of going crazy in LA and I just needed to get out for a little bit. And I couldn't think of any place that like my lease was up. I think I had a
Mhm.
peacock
Oh my
resting
God.
balcony for the
Uh,
entire, like starting in May or something, just this
yeah,
giant bulbous
yeah.
haggard peacock
On your doorstep.
doorstep. And so, yeah, my lease was up and I couldn't think of anywhere. I couldn't think of a place where I thought of it and it made me happy.
Huh.
And then I thought of New Mexico. My friend Chris I was like, what's within driving distance that I could just like put my stuff
Yeah.
in storage and leave for a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important for like adults to figure out where their place is, like where they feel the happiest and the most at home, you know? And it's never really the place where you're currently at. It's usually like a place that you imagine yourself to be in the future, you know? And it's sad that we sort of delay that, leave it for the future. But it's like, I mean, I love what you did. You're just like, oh, where will I be the most happy? And you just like packed up and just went there. I love that.
Thanks. Do you have a place like that in your mind?
I do. Right now, for me, it's Berlin. I love Berlin. I feel very much at home there, even though like I don't speak German, but I love the city. I love the people there. Um, and I mean, New York always feels like home to me. But in terms of like restful, relaxing, at peace kind of place, I don't think it would be a city. In my mind, I have this fantasy that I'll go to like I'll have a house somewhere in the coast of Maine, like isolated from everybody, where there's like a cliff, you know, like I'm like my house is on the cliff and it's totally isolated, very far
Like
from
very
traffic.
unstable foundation built. You're like a house at the very edge of a cliff.
Yeah, like the next small erosion collapse will bring me and my house down to the crashing into the rocks. But that's where I want to be. What? I didn't catch that. What?
You're like, that's my dream.
It is. I just, I would rather be surrounded with sounds of nature than my upstairs neighbor piece of shit walking around with his boots on all day, or my other upstairs neighbor with her piece of shit dog barking uncontrollably all day, or my other neighbor who I hear everything he does. Like, and another neighbor, I can hear him listening to like, I mean, him I actually like. The one on my left, I actually love him because he listens to like R&B songs from like the 90s that I'm like so into. And I'm like, yeah, play it up. I'm all about it. But like the rest of them, I hate them.
So you're listening to the call map and there's like an undercurrent of no scrubs.
Yeah, I
Transformative. Wait, okay. Maybe
yeah.
we should, I mean, I don't know. We might have time for you to make the main move.
You think so?
Yeah, I think you should put on an Irish knit sweater, grab a lobster net, and head out.
No, do you have like a cuz retirement place setting is New Mexico, but do you have like a retirement activity that you imagine yourself
Yeah, I want
doing
to
or
sit and write. Like
uh-huh.
I want to live that. I don't know. I just imagine like Georgia O'Keeffe kind of like in Taos, living in some Adobe style home where you can just walk outside and see the mountains because that's what's so beautiful about it here is you can because everything is you can't they can't build buildings past a certain height. So
Mhm.
it's very low and you can always see kind of like where the earth meets the sky.
Oh, wow.
And there are mountains at like everywhere I turn, there's a view that I'm like, oh my God. Like if I'm just feeling kind of like in a rut, I'll just go on a short drive and just marvel.
Mhm.
And especially, I found this one neighborhood where I'm like, I know George R. R. Martin lives here and I'm going to find him. He's here somewhere. There's like an article that he wanted to build a castle in his backyard, and the city was like, no.
Yeah. No, the height is there's a limit.
Yes,
You
but
can
I don't
build a
think it was even that tall. It was just some weird, like medieval spire that everyone was like, can you just not add that to our neighborhood? It's like I feel like he deserves that. Like he deserved like after all that, but he lives very modestly, I think, too. Like he doesn't live
Yeah.
in a huge house. He lives in one of those like small adobe homes. I I actually I might be making this up, but I think he writes his books on like an old fashioned computer, like a really old one, like one of those thick, boxy white ones with
Uh-huh.
like,
The blocky ones.
yes, he writes on a blocky computer.
Huh.
Um, yeah.
Remember those Apple Macintosh computers that were like gel colored, like turquoise
Yeah.
green and orange? Do you
I
think
don't
it's one of
remember
those?
my childhood, but I've seen those. Yeah. I've actually seen his. It's a classic blocky. It has very little, it only has personality because it's his, you know?
Ah, do you think he got it custom made? Like, no, is it just like an old MacBook or?
I feel like it's one of those things where you get attached to writing in a certain way, you know?
Huh.
Like I write in a 3 ring notebook, a
Hmm.
70 page. I don't like when it's thicker than 70 pages,
Yeah.
spiral notebook. Like
Yeah.
so I do my morning pages. And the minute someone's like, "Oh, I got you this journal," it's like I don't want to write in a golden journal. I can't. I just
Right.
want to feel like I can like fling it everywhere and that it has just no importance and that there's no pressure on what happened.
Yeah.
But
I totally understand
um,
that. What do you write with? What do you like to write with? What kind of pen or pencil?
for that, I'm very flexible. I like black ink, prefer black to
Mm-hmm.
blue,
Mm-hmm.
but whatever's around. Like I've learned to not be a snob about that aspect because
Huh.
I'm disorganized, so a lot of times it's beyond my control.
Hmm.
You know, I've done it with a
Yeah.
marker, pencil. Not a huge pencil fan.
Yeah. I learned this from she used to be an intern at the NYU Bobst Library, and she told me that librarians use pencil because pencil lasts forever, whereas ink fades.
Pencil lasts forever is such a poetic phrase. You're blowing my mind right now. Pencil does?
Yeah, the irony is it's easily erasable, but pencil does not fade.
Oh, interesting. Is that because it's lead or
Think the graphite, yeah. Yeah,
graphite?
I think they stopped using lead in like the 19 like 60s or something. I mean, they stopped using lead, yeah, because it's poisonous.
I've been eating pencils by the dozen.
Yeah, but I have that same that preference, like
Right.
I use hardcover moleskin. See, this is where I'm more Mariah than you are.
Right.
I like hardcover moleskin. I don't like softcover moleskin. I use moleskin for both comedy writing and journaling, but for journaling I use pencil. And for my comedy writing, I use pen. And the pens I use, I'm very specific too. I like the Jetstream pen. I get them specially ordered.
Really?
Yeah, because they glide so smoothly,
Right.
and even the what is it, this the millimeter of the ballpoint, I'm very specific with that too. I like
Yeah.
thickness. I like 1 millimeter. I don't like it when it's zero point 0.5 or zero point 0.7. It's too sharp and thin for me. I'm very
What?
specific
I
like that.
never dove into the world of millimeters. And now that you're saying, I'm like, if I got attached to a certain millimeter, it would only lead to disappointment. I love that you're so specific about it. You're like, and I put in the moles myself.
Did you have a nice Christmas Eve dinner yesterday? Did
You
you
know,
eat something
I
good?
am a Jew, and so I don't do it.
Yeah.
And I actually,
Yeah.
like every Christmas, I kind of feel torn because, I've been in relationships with people who have celebrated
Yeah.
Christmas. I've done it with them before, or I've been
Yeah.
at a friend's house where there's a whole, and it's fun and it's fun to go to a party.
Yeah.
But I don't like to blur it so much where it's like Christmas is for everyone.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I have like kind of a joke about it, but I just feel like there are only certain things that I can do in this modern world that keep me attached to my Jewish identity.
Yeah.
Not overtly celebrating Christmas is one. Because when I was little,
Yeah.
and I would go to like the grocery store with my mom,
Uh-huh.
so we'd go, "Oh, Merry Christmas." My mom, instead of telling me to say it back, would go,
Oh,
tell them. And I would say, "I'm Jewish."
nice.
I think she just wanted me to feel good about it and assert my
Yeah.
identity. And then they would say, "Oh, then happy holidays," or whatever. But
Yeah. Or
um,
happy Hanukkah. Yeah.
yeah. So last night, I did not make, um, I did not have a blown out feast or anything. Did you?
Yeah, I had a steak. Um,
Make it?
there's this, yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I went to there's this big ass Whole Foods that they just built in Sherman Oaks. It's enormous. It's so gratuitous, but I was like, I wanna see what's up. So I went in there, and when I went in, it wasn't that crowded. But like after 20 minutes, the line went to the other side of this enormous Whole Foods. And I had ice cream in my cart and they were melting. And I was just like, I was really like trying to practice mindfulness and not panic about this ice cream melting. I was like, by the time I get to the register, it's gonna be goop. But the
Well, with
cashier,
ice cream, if it unmelts, it'll melt again. Or I mean, it'll freeze again.
but it'll get that icy, awful texture, which I hate. I
Oh,
I know what you mean, but like, huh?
is it like prickly kind of?
Yes, it's
Yeah,
like icy. It's awful. The creaminess is gone. And I was just like, but thankfully when it was my turn to go to the register, they had me go to the smoothie bar to pay. And so I got to do a little bit of commuting with a person. And I was like, do you mind if I swap out these ice creams for more frozen ones? She's like, yeah, sure. So I got to, so the universe took care of it on its own. There was no need for me to
yeah.
panic for 30 minutes in that line.
It
Yeah.
reprogrammed for you. It reprogrammed.
Yeah. Yeah. But are people good about it over there where you're at?
The thing is, you don't run into as many people here. So,
Aha.
like,
Less crowded.
yeah, I mean, I go through the Starbucks drive through. Like, I do little things, but even like I had to get blood work done the other day. I was the only, you wait in your car, they come get you. The woman was a little chatty, and I was like, "Okay," I go, "when you actually draw my blood, let's not talk." Like, shut up, Sella. Because she kept going like, "Oh, so you're visiting?" And I'm like, "We don't, any conversation that doesn't need to be had at 3 feet apart, skip
Right.
it. We don't need to know about each other. You'll never see me again. You're not going to think about me. Just don't get into the personal stuff."
Yeah.
I just, yeah, but everyone seems like they've been very safe.
Hmm.
I don't know. I go hiking, but then I get scared after, if I don't see anyone on the trail for a while, I get freaked out and I turn around.
Oh, why?
I don't like the idea of running into an animal, like
Oh.
having no one else around. And I know there are like wolves and stuff out here. Because there's one trail I've been just like loving, and I get up to a certain place and I'm like, okay, if I don't see anyone in the next like 30 seconds, like it makes me nervous to be, I guess, out in the middle of nowhere alone.
I could get that. Yeah, like if something happens, like you're injured or,
Yes.
something terrible happens and there's nobody around to help you. Yeah.
Right. So it's like
Yeah.
COVID plus bears
Mm,
or whatever is lurking around. There are bears here, but I think they've gone into hibernation. I think it's cold
yeah.
enough that maybe they have.
I noticed that you posted on your Instagram a pair of gold Birkenstocks, and I was just like, "What's with Lizzy Cooperman and gold shoes?"
It's so funny because I knew, for context, I just posted, "What is Santa going to put in my Birkenstocks this year?" And you wrote another pair of gold traveling shoes because when we were at the airport, Grace made fun of it was a pair of gold loafers that were
Hmm.
falling apart
Yeah.
on my feet, deteriorating before her very eyes. And she was like, "You need to get new shoes." And I was like, "These are my favorite shoes." I've since thrown them
Yeah.
away because I believe a hole developed in the actual sole of the shoe.
That's what I'm saying. I could hear the heels of your I could hear your bone heels hitting the airport like pavement and I was like, you need your shoes, lady. Like
I
protect
just
your
keep
feet.
things. It's like the 70-page notebook. It's like those were my George R. R. Martin's computer.
I understand.
You know,
Yeah.
I got attached to them, and then one day I was like, "Oh yeah, these don't look good anymore." Grace was right. Sometimes you
Yeah.
do need a friend to tell you that, though. You know,
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
friend whose eyebrows were always so intense, and I was like, "I'm not going to be the one to say anything," and I'm just wondering if someone ever will, and
Huh.
never de-intensified. Like my life looks so different just from being alone.
Yeah.
Systems have changed. The Rube Goldberg goes in a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah. What's one big change?
I have to say, I am struggling with like fitness and exercise
Uh-huh.
during all this. I used to love the gym.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not a gym rat. I'm not in it's amazing shape, but I love elliptical machines. I like to go
Uh-huh.
on, look at the time, listen to the music, get changed, shower, feel good about myself, and be like, yes, I went to the gym.
Right.
Now it's like around 3 o'clock. I'll like get in my car, hopefully go on a hike that's long enough to like get something going.
Sure.
But it doesn't feel as pointed, like I don't feel like my body is getting the same thing. I've tried doing videos and stuff. It's just not, I'm just like, I'm sick of that aspect. I want to
Mm.
just be able to like know I took care of it and like see the number. And I'm thinking when I go back of getting an elliptical machine.
Yeah, I love elliptical machines. I actually got a sitting elliptical machine that I
Oh,
stand on and
is that the one with just the feet in the air that go like that?
yes.
Wait, I've been looking at those and I'm like, how do you maintain balance? But you can stand on it, right?
You can stand. I have it by my refrigerator actually because it's the perfect height where I could put my iPad up
I
and
think I can reach my ice cream
yeah, I bought it just so that I could open the freezer.
before the ice
Yes, 'cause
cream melts and then refreeze. Here, Julia Cameron wrote The Artist Way is here. Robert Redford
wow.
lives here.
Oh wow.
Gene
Yeah.
Hackman did live here.
Huh.
But it's just I see why. It's peaceful. There's a feeling of wholeness and it's like inspiring too.
Are
It's
you
just
in Albuquerque? Like what part of New
I
Mexico?
am in Santa Fe.
Santa Fe. Okay.
Yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
Albuquerque I think is more the Breaking Bad vibe.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Santa Fe is a little more like we have a quaint little main square where if it were open, you'd leave every shop decked out in head to toe turquoise with a little
Yeah.
chalet in one hand, turquoise belt in the other. Like it's that kind of like
Yeah.
slightly touristy area.
Sure.
But then it's just like gorgeous. Like there are some neighborhoods that just have a ton of money. And when you drive up, you're just like, this is insane.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm having the this is insane feeling more than I would, I think, in like Beverly Hills. But I don't even know if Beverly Hills is still what the idea of what it used to be?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want to live in Beverly Hills.
No, too many ghosts.
Too many go.
Too many Hollywood ghosts. Yeah. And also Santa Fe is probably more land for cheaper,
Yes.
so people will make it more grandiose and
Yeah.
big.
Yes. And it's
Yeah.
weirdly more relaxed too. Like they're like there's not a lot of pretense, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful.
I think that's important, being surrounded by beauty. Like when I was driving from New York to California like 5, almost 6 years ago now, I was struck by how enormous the US is and how gorgeous it is. And there were moments, especially in like Utah and Colorado, I would be like Arizona, I was like yelling alone in my car because it was so unbelievably beautiful.
Yes. That's what I
Yeah.
have here. That's, yeah.
Yeah. I like
It's,
that.
I drove to Taos.
Hmm.
I had some
Where's
friends
that?
who were kind of passing through. It's like in
Okay.
northern, it's north of Santa Fe, but it's like a
Okay.
tundra. Like in the winter, it's like
Wow.
artsy. I don't know that I've ever used the word artsy before. Because artsy usually means horrible art.
Yeah.
So
Hence
I'm going
fartsy.
to retract that adjective. It,
Okay.
it's not artsy. It's a sweet town
Mm.
that I know is populated by artists. It is where Georgia O'Keeffe did live.
Wow.
But just like this gorgeous, like tundra, like I had that experience driving through. I was like, oh my God, like it felt like another planet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I am grateful for that aspect of experiencing the pandemic in that I was able to just leave in a safe way.
Mm-hmm.
Because people are like, oh, are you sure it's safe to travel? It's like, I'm literally only in my car and
Mm-hmm.
I'm checking into an Airbnb with a lock pad. I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
and then I get in and wipe things down and then call it a
Yeah.
day. It's like, it's not like I'm heading to the airport, taking an Uber, I always
Right.
gas stations. So,
Yep.
um, but it is something I'm grateful for is the opportunity to just like get out of LA because LA is a beautiful city. And I'm sure when I go back, I don't want to go back. When I go back, I'll appreciate it in a new way or,
Yes.
I'll see, maybe I'll go to a different neighborhood or I'll
Yeah.
find another way to make it work,
Yeah.
a different way that I can take like these values with me,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah. No,
Never trans.
I like that, you kind of shape that perspective into one of gratitude. Uh, because I remember in the beginning, I remember seeing how stressed you were. Like you were ordering Instacart and spraying down everything with uh like Lysol, and you were very careful. Like you were like
Yeah,
hardcore lockdown. And now you've
yeah,
mustered the bravery to find happiness and went to New Mexico. You're driving and you're taking in beauty. I mean, yeah. And then you're grateful. Like, I think that's so nice. All of that.
that's so nice to hear, Grace, because I was miserable. And you know what? I don't even know if it was just the pandemic. I
Uh-huh.
think it was like once I realized I was just alone in my apartment and blocked in by the peacock and worried about it was just a culmination of things that I realized some like in September,
Yeah.
I can't stay here because I think I am going insane.
Yeah.
I don't even say it like I don't take that lightly. I was
Yeah.
like having to listen to like panic attack meditations to fall
Mm-hmm.
asleep. It felt very, and I'm sure a lot of people felt this way, but
Yeah.
in a weird way, it's like a lot. I do think a lot of people have felt this, especially like people who are immunocompromised
Yep.
or who are older. Like, what is this? Especially if you're living alone. And when this is over, if it's ever over, because I don't know, I just saw, did you see Ian McKellen getting the vaccine or
I
whatever? And he's
did.
like, I highly recommend it. It's like, you just got it.
Yeah.
We've all had a shot. You can go, I highly recommend buying this book. It's like, you haven't read the book, you idiot.
Right. Yes.
Sorry, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but it's like, we don't know if it works.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if you're going to wake up tomorrow with side of your face frozen, or because
Hmm.
people were getting palsy from it.
Yeah.
And so it's like we but when this is over, everyone is going to have been through something. Like everyone's gone through a change, and the way that that manifests is going to be really it's going to be really interesting to see how people move their way back into society, and if it's going to be gradual or if it's going to be like, I keep picturing everyone at the Virgil. Like,
Yeah.
I just keep picturing some crazy party at the Virgil.
Yeah.
Both sides are open. And I'm like, I'm not ready for it. I'm not ready for it.
Yeah.
You know, I watched a little bit of that. Is it too early to get into it?
Get into what?
I watched a little bit of the Goblin.
Oh my God. Yeah. You watched some of it?
Well, I watched like the trailers for it. Yeah.
Well, okay. Yeah, we can. What did you think of the trailers? Yeah, we can get into that. Yeah.
Okay. What did I think of the trailers?
Yeah.
A lot of scarves. Literally, there's a woman wearing a chunky scarf in every trailer.
Yeah.
Just a red, thick, I'm like, honey, pull it. Like, oh God, if that kind of stressed me out a little bit. It's like there should be just scenes of people entering rooms and unwinding scarves. So many scarves. It also was kind of like it was shot in a way that was kind of hallmarky,
Yes.
you know, but then so it almost made the goblin parts a little more jarring. Like, wait, what? Because it feels like it felt a little two dimensional,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. The storyline, you mean, or just the aesthetic, or both?
The aesthetic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't really delve into the storylines, but
Yeah.
I could kind of glean. There was some line about like that phone isn't, no one's called here in 60 years or something. But it's like a young boy saying it. And I'm like, okay, I get it.
Okay.
But this is like a popular show, right?
Dude, it was like unbelievable. What a huge. This was in Wikipedia, they call it a mega hit. Whatever the fuck that means, but it's not just a hit, it's a mega hit. Like people went buck wild when this show came out in late 2016 into 2017. Yeah, it was intense.
Okay.
Yeah. But um yeah, let's
Yeah. So it's like it's a drama.
it's a drama. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
There's some
So it's
comedic elements, but it's mostly a drama.
Us.
Sorry?
I was watching, I was like, I wonder if this is like the Korean version of This Is Us. A show I started watching in quarantine. Have you seen that show?
I could never watch that show. No, no way.
Grace, you can't I couldn't tell when the show ended and a commercial began. Because it was so saccharine. I'd be like, wait, is this a flashback or a Country Time Lemonade commercial? It was like someone just staring out a window with kind of,
Yeah.
crossfades, and you're just like, oh, this is the show still. Okay. And like they talk about the dad being dead every episode. And that's where there is crossover with Goblin. You're obsessed with his dad on This Is Us. And you're like, like 5 seasons of like going back and thinking about how this crock pot exploded. That's what happens. Sorry, that's a huge spoiler.
It's you can spoil away. I really don't give a shit. I
Right.
could never watch that show. It just looked so
But then it gets addictive. But then it becomes, but if you watch enough of anything, you're like, okay, let's just see how this
okay.
unfolds.
Yeah, yeah.
Like let's see how you worked your way out of this maze.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So Goblin, it has 2 titles.
Yeah. It's either Goblin or The Guardian, Great and Lonely God. It doesn't matter. It's these titles, It depends on who translates it. It depends on transliteration. It's got all these things, but it's
But if
not.
you were looking, like if you were trying to find it on a guide
Yeah.
in Korea, would it say Goblin or would it say the other title?
Um, I don't know. Like on Viki, which is the streaming platform where this show is currently on, I think it says Guardian, the Great and Lonely God. But even if you type in Goblin, I think just the search engine will understand what you're looking for and then give you that as a result. Um,
But if you were saying it to a friend in Korean, it would just have one thing that meant both?
we would say
Or,
Goblin. Yeah. Yeah.
okay, okay.
And the word goblin, like goblin is like this Western fantasy, like elf-like, gorish creature. But in Korea, it's like tokebi, which is essentially it's comparable to a goblin, but it's tokebi. Tokebi is the word and it's the concept, and it's like they have a little bat with spikes on it. They have a little horn like at the top of on the top of their heads. They look very savage, like they're topless, but they wear like a skirt made of like hay and leaves or something.
I think I saw this guy on Hinge. Exactly. Whoever you're,
And
the New Mexico dating pool is very different from LA. I'll just say that. A lot of guys like hog motorcycles with like spikes, and you're like, I can't get into this.
well, now you have a like an opening to that. Be like, are you the goblin that I saw in this Korean drama? And the thing that the Korean goblins have is like when they use their little bat, they can make gold appear. So it's like a leprechaun too. Like they can whack the bat and then gold appears, but it's like contingent upon some awful condition. Like I can give you gold right now, but your son might die or something like that. It's like that's why
Right.
it's technically not benevolent creatures. They're monstrous creatures like that because they have these conditions. Yeah.
Wow. They've
But
been through something.
yeah. But the goblin in this show, he's like very handsome and tall and like romantic and um
Right.
anyway, we'll get into it. But let me ask you some flashcard questions, all right?
Okay.
So I ask you some questions and you just answer them based on how Lizzie would do. Okay, so you're the same 18-year-old girl and you meet a 939-year-old man whose identity is actually a goblin, all right? And he's very attractive. He has a sword stuck inside his chest. And the ghosts that have been following you since you were a child, they are telling you that you are his wife. What do you do?
I would be his wife, 100%. I know what I was like when I was 18. I would have been like, yes, this is the perfect situation. I've been in similar situations. When I was like young, I dated this like 52-year-old Hungarian sculptor.
A goblin, yeah.
Yes, he was a goblin. I've been in this situation, so I know I would be like, I've no issue with that.
Okay.
And this guy's attractive and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would try
Super
to like,
attractive.
I would date him and try to like learn something, you know?
Okay.
I'd write about it. I'd date him. I'd try to crank out a few poems, you know? Yeah,
Okay. All
I'd be
right.
into it.
Yeah, yeah,
I'd
yeah.
be into
Use them for your creativity. All right, great. And your growth. I like that. I like that a lot.
it.
All right, so you are now the 939-year-old goblin man, old man goblin, and you used to be a general about 1,000 years ago during the Goryeo dynasty in Korea, but a jealous king had you killed. All right, and your
Okay.
punishment for killing so many people during the war was making you live forever until the day you meet your wife, who will pull the sword out from your chest, which is the way that you technically died. She pulls the sword out of your chest, and then when she does, she turns you into dust, and then you finally die forever. You disappear. All right. And in the year 2016, you meet this 18-year-old high school girl who claims to be your wife. And she says she'll pull the sword out of your chest. What do you do? Do you let her?
I think I might bring her to like a lie detector test.
Uh, just to make sure that it's real?
Yeah, because where is she coming up with this information?
Yeah.
Like what is her motive? Why does she want to do this?
Uh-huh. Okay.
I, because how does someone just come up to you and say, I'm your spouse? I mean, I guess
Right.
unless it's love at first sight.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, I guess I could let her just try.
Uh-huh.
Do I want to die? Do you think this me as 939-year-old person wants to die? Or is that part of the question?
That
Are
is
you
part of the
asking?
question. I'm asking you as that man, as that old
Next
goblin.
question. Do you personally have a death wish? Listeners?
You've been living for 939 years. It's a long time. You've seen
Yeah,
eras change.
yeah. I think life is however long you're alive is a good amount of time,
Huh.
right? Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't force it. I think I would honestly, I would probably pray on it a little bit and say, if this is my wife, can I get clearer guidance on
Hmm.
that?
Yeah. Make it more bona fide for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I like
So
that answer.
lie detector.
Okay. All right. So you're the same 18-year-old girl. You turn 19 now. Okay. And you're about to go to college. You find out that if you pull the sword out of this goblin's chest, you'll end up killing him. But if you don't pull the sword out of his chest, fate will kill you. What do you do?
I thought you were going to say you'll lose your scholarship. Okay. If I do, okay, so I already know that. I'll pull the sword out. And if I don't, I'll die.
Yeah.
I would, arrange a breakfast with this goblin, sit him down with a few pamphlets and talk out our options.
Okay. Even though those
Yeah.
the
We'd
options are
have a,
just
break-
those two things.
we'd
Okay.
have a breakfast. We'd talk about it.
What would you have for breakfast?
God, you know what I'm really wanting right now is huevos.
What are those?
Huevos rancheros.
Oh,
Like,
huevos rancheros. Okay, okay.
and I could probably get it anywhere here.
Really? In New Mexico?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
too bad.
It's kind of like a specialty.
Hmm.
I mean, I could do curbside, let's be honest.
You could
Um, but that's what I would have.
for
A breakfast
breakfast.
like that, actually, a breakfast like that, I'd like to just, if an uncomfortable breakfast, I would go more with like a salmon omelet.
Mm. Yeah.
Salmon and capers is more formal for a conversation, I think. I would go
Yeah.
salmon and capers and save the huevos for a celebration.
Yeah. Of either your life or death. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
more
I
celebratory.
like that.
Relax.
A sophisticated brunch to negotiate who's gonna die, and then celebratory huevos rancheros. Okay. I
Either
love it.
way.
All right. So, final question. All right. You're the 939-year-old goblin man, all right? And you have this ability to open any door and wind up in any place you want to be. Where would you go?
Are you serious?
Yeah, he has that ability. You have that ability.
I was thinking Berlin because you were saying you loved Berlin. If I could go anywhere right now,
Yeah, right now.
okay. Could I change the weather too?
Yeah, he can change the weather. How did you know that? Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking like if I were to say I wanted to go to like a wave pool, it's sunny outside because I think it would be so fun right now to open a door, hop on an inner tube, and just float down a lazy river with like a drink.
Oh, yeah.
Listen to great music, like a long one,
Yeah. Ah,
socially distanced. I would love to just do something fun and relaxing like that right now. I've gone on all the hikes. I've seen the beauty. Let me do something commercial, dumb, and numbing,
yeah.
and have there be people around in a world where there's no COVID-19.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay, I
That's
like
it.
that answer. That's sweet. I like that like I was expecting like oh like some like magnificent nature thing, but it's like because you're in that, you don't need it and you want to go to like a water park.
Yes, yeah, or just like a Chili's. Like I want to go somewhere just so normal. I'm craving normalcy. I'm craving that bloomin' onion of existence right now.
I hear you. I hear you. That's a profound answer. Thank you.
Hmm,
All right, that wraps
thank
up
you.
our flashcard series. Thanks.
Great.
Yeah, I loved talking to you. This was so fun. This
I
was so
love
great.
talking to you too. I love the idea of this show, and it makes me want to watch more Goblin. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm him now, so I've got to
yeah. I chose
make some
this.
choices.
I chose this show specifically for you because I was just like, yeah, like there's like time travel in this. There's like uh reincarnation and rebirth in this. There's like all this trippy stuff. Like I think she'd be down. Like I could this is very much like Lizzie like, yeah.
I love it. Thank you, Grace.
Thanks, Lizzie. Next week, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite shows of all time, which is called What Happened in Bali. It's also known as Something Happened in Bali. And it came out in 2004. It is a SBS drama. It is very intense. It is not a fun, happy go lucky kind of show. So just be forewarned. As I say in every single episode, there will be spoilers in that episode. There were spoilers on this episode. I'm sorry that my spoiler alert is coming so late, but it's here. I mentioned it in episode 1. There will be spoilers in every single episode. So check out What Happened in Bali. It is a really intense show, fun show to binge. And it stars some hot people. So you get some eye candy, like you get Suji's Hub, you get Chuin's Hung, you get Hajiwon. So there you go. And if you have any questions for me, email me. You can send your emails to kdramaschool@gmail.com. I'll try to address them on the podcast. And if you haven't already, please follow us at Kdrama School on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you want more information about this podcast and any of the shows that I just discussed, check out the website, kdramaschool.com. And that is our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you, and I will see you next week.